So, when I asked the head of my institute, who is also a lady doctor, I asked her, Ma'am, I would need a separate room. She denied outright. She said, Why do you want a separate room? A resident is a resident. There is nothing like a male resident and a female resident.
5 people have come at your night duty room and saying that you come with us. You don't know where they are taking, but you have to go.
These are voices of young women doctors recounting what they go through as they treat patients, sometimes not worrying about their own safety. The brutal rape and murder of a 31-year-old doctor at West Bengal's RG Kaur Medical College has once again brought into focus the issue of women's safety and particularly security of our women doctors. It is Friday, the 30th of August. From the Economic Times, I'm your host Nidhi Sharma and you're listening to the Morning Brief. We spoke to a number of women doctors to understand their work conditions and what they face as they tirelessly work in hospitals, sometimes for 36 to 48 hours at a stretch. As they shared their stories, a common thread came out. Almost all women doctors had faced some form of harassment from their own seniors or patients' families. And almost all were too young to know whether it was all right to raise their voice at that time. Most still feel that if they do not choose their battles at workplace, they run the risk of being termed as high maintenance or drama queens. But let's start from the beginning. A medical student pursues an MBBS for 4.5 years and then does an internship of a year. When this young doctor does her post-graduation or an MD, she is called a resident. A hospital is run by its young resident doctors. It is common knowledge that residents face patients' families' ire if something goes wrong. But the heinous crime at RG Kaur Medical Institute has shaken the fraternity. Why? The residents are almost living in the hospital and treat it like their home. As a doctor told me in a conversation, this incident is like being violated inside your own home. To bring the everyday stories of our medical fraternity to you, I promised anonymity to our young doctors who finally agreed to participate in this episode. Doctor, thank you for joining us. Could you tell us what kind of issues you face, probably because of the working hours that you keep as a doctor?
I have done my MBBS and MD from a government institute. Then I did my DNB super specialization from a corporate hospital. So it has been more than 13 years I have been studying to become a super specialist doctor. And in this journey, I have done 2 residencies, both of 3 years each, one at a government institute and another at a corporate hospital. At both the places, even till date, there is no separate doctor's room for female doctors. And during my super specialization residency, my night duties were on every alternate nights. So that way I would be working 36 hours every 2 days. And then alternate Sundays also we will be working. So our average working hours would be 120 plus hours every week. So during my super specialization residency, we were just 2 doctors who were on night duty, and apparently I was the only female doctor who was doing night duties at that time. So when I asked the head of my institute, who is also a lady doctor, I asked her, Ma'am, I would need a separate room. She denied outright. She said, Why do you want a separate room? A resident is a resident. There is nothing like a male resident and a female resident. So we are working tirelessly 36 hours, and like if we do not shut eye for even 2 hours, our whole system will crash. We would not be able to take good decisions for the patient the next day. So after completing our work at around 2 to 3 p.m., we generally go for rest to our rooms. So how the system was in my hospital, there was a room with 2 twin beds. So my male colleagues, one from medical unit and surgical unit, would be sharing that room. I have been blessed to have excellent male colleagues and seniors throughout my whole tenure. So I did not want to share that room, not because I did not trust my male colleague, but it would have been uncomfortable for him too. And if he is searching for another room, he would also not get rest, which would not be acceptable on my part. So again, voice this out. So she's telling me that you are being a drama queen. What is this? That I am a lady doctor. I'm a lady doctor. I'm a lady doctor. But after repeatedly requesting madam, she gave me a doctor's lounge to rest in, which is a room on the ground floor of the hospital where there is just waiting area and radiology department. So during nights, it's all deserted with one guard there, and it's generally very dark. So I again requested madam that, madam, I cannot stay there. Can you please give me the special rooms which we give to the patients when they are not occupied? Can I rest there? But she outrightly denied that, what is this? What is your demand? And then there were many instances where I slept on the nursing station on the floor because I would be so tired that even resting with head down on the desk would not give me rest enough. So I would slip on the floor, and that's how we have done our residency.
So, doctor, tell me, how long are the hours? Isn't there any forum that can actually take up this for you internally, or isn't there a body that you can take it up with that about your working conditions?
So, ma'am, we definitely have Junior Doctors Association and all that. But when it comes to asking for our demands, it has been repeatedly brought up, ma'am. But then the senior doctors would say that even we have done our residency like this, and residency is supposed to be this difficult, and we are training you for long hours and this and that. And that's why nobody would listen to us, ma'am. And again, ma'am, as I said, if I ask that I want a room to sleep for my night duty, they would say that night duties are not meant to be slept. So nobody would listen, madam. So there is no organized way we can actually approach it.
So, doctor, have there been any incidents specifically where you have had problems with the patients?
Yes, madam. So I would share a very recent experience. So I joined as a consultant just 4 months back. So now I'm not a resident doctor, I'm a consultant. And I was taking rounds in the ward of the patients, and I was examining a patient, and then I noticed flash on my face. Then I looked there and I saw that the relative of that patient had his phone in hand, and it was facing towards me. So I thought it must be by mistake, because sometimes when we are opening our phone for something else, sometimes the torch opens up or flash comes or camera opens up. So I thought it must be that, and I just ignored it and I continued with my examination. Then I experienced 3-4 more flashes on my face, and it was only my face in the frame. It was not like he's taking my photograph with the patient or something else. When I realized it, I immediately left the ward. I was actually shocked. Now, this is again a corporate hospital where I work in, and the patient and the relatives were educated. Later, I approached management that so-and-so thing happened. So they were actually supportive that, madam, if you want us to pursue this, we would definitely take this up. But if you see, that guy also realized that I knew that he has taken my photograph. So by the time I would go back, he would have deleted his photograph. I did not know how we would have approached it or how law would have protected. And if there would not have been any photos, people would have said that I am somebody who is an attention seeker. So this is a very recent experience I had, not as a consultant, which is very sad. And I still do not know how would have I approached the whole thing.
Common duty rooms seem to be a problematic area. A young resident at a government medical institute shared how she felt a male colleague feeling her legs up while she was sleeping in the duty room at night. She did not want to be recorded, as her sexual harassment complaint is still being addressed by the institute. Another young doctor hailing from Manipur recalled how a patient's son started stalking her when she was a resident in one of the medical colleges of Delhi. She was sometimes followed till her hostel, and the harassment continued till she gathered the courage to report it to the police. He knew I was an outsider and may not report this matter, she recalled to us. Once again, we have kept her identity under wraps on request. Dr. Amara Hassan, who works in a private hospital in Gujarat, told us how doctors posted in remote areas are sometimes just forced to accompany villagers in the middle of the night.
Security issues are there. They had been there for so long. Also, where the incident happened, it was a tertiary center that is supposed to be safe. Also, the doctors there posted to peripheries, that is PHCs, primary healthcare services. There, they're the sole doctor at night. Okay, nobody else is there on duty. And their safety is highly compromised at that time because the people from village can come and mob up against them, gang up against them. And they can also take the doctor. They actually take the doctor home. They just ask the doctor to sit in the car and say that, chalo mere yahan. They take it. They take the doctor, right? So, and at that time, doctor
They do?
doesn't.
They do?
Yeah, at times they do.
You face,
periphery, yeah.
you know of incidents that they've taken the doctor.
Yeah, at some places it has happened.
Okay.
I can't name those places, those doctors, but yeah, those things have happened. And see, at that time, Nidhi, you cannot resist that. When 5 people have come at your night duty room and saying that you come with us. You don't know where they are taking, but you have to go.
The common refrain that I'm finding from across women doctors is that there are common duty rooms where women sleep and sometimes are expected by the hospital administration to share that duty room with a male colleague, which they say that it can make the male colleague uncomfortable, and it certainly makes them uncomfortable. Now, can you tell me if you have faced this or if other colleagues have faced this? Is this common practice?
Yeah, Nidhi. Actually, most of the government colleges that I know, there is only single duty room. It's a huge duty room, and everybody sleeps there. And if somebody doesn't get a bed or anything, though, he'll go and roam around in the ward. It's like that. I mean, and people have got used to it, so nobody says anything, to the administration or to the people who should be concerned about those things. So usually people don't complain. But yes, it can be a matter of concern if the working environment is, not that respectful to women. So it can be a problem at that time.
Have you faced it ever?
Not as much. My colleagues have been really nice, and
But you have, but it's common practice. Your workplace.
you have a single, yeah. So right now where we work, it's a corporate setup, and in corporate setup, usually these things don't happen. They still have some system in place. At some institution it is there, and at some institution it's not there. But that's okay. There we can manage things because the colleagues that we are working, they become friends, and we manage things like if we can find another room and the female colleagues go there and the male colleagues in the separate room. So we manage on our front, but we are not given a separate gender specific room or gender specific bathroom. Usually it's not available.
As an incensed medical fraternity is hitting the streets and seeking better protection under law, a suggestion has come about: not assigning night duties to women doctors. This suggestion has been brushed aside across board. Women doctors say they anyways face enough challenges when they take maternity leaves to start families. This suggestion will put them at a further disadvantage. I sought solutions from the doctors, and here is what they say. Doctor, there is a suggestion that is coming that women should not be put on night duty. As a working professional, do you think that's a solution?
Madam, I do not think that it is a solution because again, it would just widen the gender inequality. So just to give you food for thought, most of times that if I take a maternity leave as a female doctor, people would say that I'm on a vacation. I got a vacation of 6 months. So those things are always there, which make us portray as we are less competent and less committed than our male colleagues. So if we are not put on night duties, again, the thing would come up as female doctors are a burden and they are not as competent. They are not getting as much train as male doctors. And then when it will come to our career growth, maybe it would just hinder. So I think that can really not be a solution. Also, if we say that female doctors will not do night duty, we have so many gynec residents. So mostly females are more comfortable with female doctors at the time of delivery, and there are many female patients will also come in emergency. Maybe they are more comfortable with female doctors around. So I think that way it is not a solution. Also, most of the time nursing staff are women only, so why are we not voicing out their concern? In fact, their voices are more suppressed than those of doctors because we belong to maybe the cream of society. People are listening to us more, but I think the nursing staff face as much problem, in fact at times much more than what we face as doctors, because I have seen patients relatives doing dirty comments like कि हमारी special night duty का कितना charge करोगे. Now these are verbal abuses they undergo every day जिसके कोई proof नहीं है. Like I don't know whether there are any laws to protect it. I do not know whether they would actually voice it out. But these are the things they face day in and day out, madam. Sometimes I feel that even women in leadership role, women in power are not supporting the women who are junior to them. They are not voicing out their concern. They are not supporting them. In fact, they are the ones who are suppressing their voices. So if I, as a consultant, could not voice my concern, that's because all through 13 years of my internship and residency, nobody had ever supported me when I voiced out my concerns. So maybe we have to have a more secure environment where people can actually come and talk about their concerns. And then there has to be actual solutions to those problems, madam.
Dr. Amara says night duties are required to gain experience. Dr. Amara, after this incident at RG Kaur Medical Institute, there have been suggestions that, night duty should not be prescribed for women doctors. What do you think? Is that a logical solution?
Well, medicine is a very difficult subject, Nidhi. So it needs a very rigorous program for the students to learn. That's why we are given all sort of duties, and also we need to develop the kind of resilience, mental and physical as well, to do this job. It's a very difficult job, especially when I'm a cancer specialist. I know what sort of things we deal with day in, day out. So the resilience will be developed if we go through a rigorous program, okay? And if someone comes and says ki, let's not give any night duty to female doctors, I don't think that is needed, that is warranted, and that is fair to our male colleague as well. Safety has to be there, but night duties, these things are needed in the program. It's an emergency service, right?
The medical fraternity is obviously angry. But what protection are they being offered under law? My colleague Anirban Chaudhary spoke to Aparna Mittal, a corporate lawyer and founder of Samana Center, to understand the lapses in the legal framework that is supposed to protect employees.
Hi Aparna, very warm welcome to the Morning Brief again after a while. Pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Anirban. It's very nice to connect again, and good morning to you as well.
So Aparna, see, the last few weeks have shown us that the problem that has come to light with the RG Kar incident spreads across industries, right? From hospitals to the film industry, where working conditions for women are just not up to the mark. And this is despite several labor laws in India. So let's start with what you think are the key gaps that have led to this.
Right. So I think, it's a massive and complex problem, which I will try and bifurcate into a couple of, important issues. One is, of course, we have, as you have rightly said, a plethora of laws. But what happens with, a lot of legislation is twofold. And I'm talking specifically about the whole basket of laws that get covered in the employment and labor law basket. One is a few years ago, the government of India took the exercise of consolidating the plethora of laws into 4 labor codes. One would have hoped that in that process of consolidation and reform, it wasn't just a process of putting them together, but perhaps also looking at existing lacunae in the law, both where the law existed but there were gaps in implementation, or where there was simply no law at all. I'll give you one example, and broadly speaking, we have the Factories Act, we have Shops and Establishments Act, and we have, sector-based laws which govern, say, cine workers or, journalists, etc. In the Shops and Establishments Act, which traditionally applies to non-factories, there are provisions around, overtime, working hours, shift, rest, bathrooms, and all of that. But if you look at the fine line, there are multiple exemptions which have over time been built into the law. For example, the Delhi Shops Act, it exempts all medical facilities from all provisions. The other thing I want to mention is that in India, and I say this having practiced, corporate law when we used to advise investors and advise people who were doing diligences of companies, labor law, unfortunately, was given the least importance in any big commercial transaction that I have seen, because the penalties have been so abysmally low in the law that it was typically just covered as a covenant somewhere in the transaction documents and not really given the importance it should have been given. We've seen this now with healthcare workers, but you see the ASHA workers have been saying this for years. We've seen this in the film industry. It's unraveled in a particular region, but these issues have been prevalent across sectors in India. If you look at several other industries, look at hospitality, look at others, you will end up finding similar issues on working conditions.
There are two sides to the problem. One is the working conditions, and the other is the sexual or other forms of violence that women face in workplaces. On the latter, what are the key gaps that need to be urgently addressed?
In terms of sexual harassment, again, it's a complex problem. Either there is lack of awareness or there is simply lack of a willingness to do something. A lot of companies that we work with, and we work across, from the private sector, government sector, the non-profit development sector, a lot of times we think that the approach of the manager or the employer is simply a chalta hai approach. Either they are in denial, this does not happen in our company or in our organization, or they think that they only need to address it once they reach a tipping point of, say, 500 employees or 1,000 employees. Now, the problem there really is that in the long run, people's understanding of what is sexual harassment is also quite rudimentary. They believe that it has to be physical in nature only for it to trigger the law. They don't understand that even using a sexually colored word or an innuendo or staring at somebody in a specific way can also be seen as sexual harassment. And also, I think, what I have seen over the years is that somehow when you look at labor laws or employment laws and related investments that employers need to make, they somehow think of it as something which is not relevant enough, which does not have enough ROI. And I think that is a problematic approach.
So, Aparna, the Supreme Court has made very, very terse comments on the RG Kar case. It has also called for the establishment of a national task force to aid in the investigations, which has now gone to CBI. How much do you think that will really help in the long term, or even in this particular case?
So I think in relation to the issue of poor working conditions and allegations of rampant sexual harassment in the healthcare industry, I think what the Supreme Court has done is laudable. They have called it out and said there has to be immediate action and set up a task force to look into several of these issues. They have also very kindly listed out and pointed out some of these issues, but I would have loved to see them also add specific instances of how the existing law, which does create clear frameworks, can be revisited to address these issues. For example, as I have said, Shops and Establishments Act in most states already stipulate working hours, rest periods, overtime, how many hours of work you can have in a week. Now, why have these exemptions been granted to healthcare workers? Why must a doctor be required to work 18 hours or 26 hours or 36 hours? Why have they been exempted over time from existing labor provisions, which were in the first place put together to address this kind of lacuna and this kind of problems. And I would have loved to see some more representation of employment lawyers or people from the labor ministry who understand the detailing of the plethora of laws that we already have in this country, to see what can be reformed within the existing framework. So our existing frameworks have to be refurbished to make them more applicable, even if that's in a customized manner to cover more people.
There are no easy answers to this. As a society, we need to stop putting onus on women to keep themselves safe. The depravity that has crept into our daily lives needs to be urgently addressed. We need to raise our voice more responsibly, because Beti Padhao does not necessarily mean Beti Bachao. Beti Padhao, lekin bete ko bhi samjhao. Hope this episode of The Morning Brief made us all think, and think hard. I'm Nidhi Sharma signing off. This episode was brought to you by sound designer Rajas Nayak and producer Vinay Joshi. Executive producers Anirban Chaudhary and Arijit Barman. Thank you for listening, and if you like this episode, do spread the word. All new episodes of the Morning Brief podcast drop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. It streams on Amazon Prime Music, JioSaavn, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And of course, ET's own audio platform, ET Play. Have a great week ahead.